Welcome to the Toon Under podcast. We're doing a little quick reaction podcast to the news that bit of transfer news that Newcastle have put in a transfer bid, or there seems to be some serious interest in Lewis Hall of Chelsea. So Chelsea's young 18-year-old left back. I'm Jack in Brisbane, and I've got Craig in Mackay. How you doing, Craig?
I'm good, mate. Looking forward to this one. It's always good when we get to the business end of the transfer window, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's a couple of weeks left. This one it's been bubbling along a little bit. The links with Lewis Hall were sort of made earlier in the summer, but a bit about it hasn't really added up. He's a young player at Chelsea. He's only played 12 senior games. There's got to be question marks over why they would want to sell him, especially to sort of top of the Premier League sort of rival as well. So what's your sort of understanding about the way this has come about, and what's your kind of take on what's happened with this transfer over the last couple of days?
Well, the key thing is we need a definitive left back, a specialist left back. That's been probably on the go since, I don't know, since Target picked up his long-term injury last season, I'd imagine. Dan Burn, as good as a job as he done last season, he's not a genuine left back. And although Matt Target's not done anything wrong, I just don't think he's the player that's going to take us forward. And I think a lot of fans are feeling the same. So Lewis Hall, a dedicated left back. He's young, he's hungry, he's English, he supports a club. He fits the bill left, right, and centre, doesn't he?
His dad's a Geordie apparently, and I saw he's got a brother who plays down in the lower leagues, and I saw a video clip of him saying that I think his team had got through in the FA Cup last season, and they were asking him who he wanted, and he said he wanted Newcastle. He supports Newcastle. So it's a bit like Jacob Murphy's situation, where they seem to support the Toon because of family connections. But this has been a bit of a interesting tale, because, like I said, there has been interest going back. And then it was David Ornstein, who is kind of, when he tweets something from The Athletic that there's some kind of legs in it. He tweeted that Newcastle were considering a bid or were very interested. But there's been a bit of talk that Lewis Hall has actually just signed a new contract with Chelsea. So he's apparently signed a 6-year deal. And they were going to send him on loan to Crystal Palace. So I've been reading a bit about that stuff. He's been waiting to go to Palace for the last week or so. And then hasn't happened for whatever reason. Chelsea have obviously got Ben Chilwell, who's their first choice left back. And then they've got Mark Cucurella, who we were also linked with pretty heavily this week. So it could be a case, couldn't it, with Chelsea, just that this is a player that they've got on the books who is worth some money that they could sell. Like, who knows what's going on at Chelsea? It's like you can't try and make any sense or any logic of what they've been doing. But does it seem to you that they're just looking to cash in at this stage because it's something they can do and they need the money because of all the transfers they've made?
Could be. I don't know what his contract status was before. I don't know if he had just a few months left, whether he was ready to go on a free or anything. And the players still go to tribunals now if they've come through the academy or anything, and they get like a small fee or anything there. Obviously, they're going to get a lot more from a transfer fee rather than going to tribunal. So maybe that was the idea. We tie you down to a long-term contract, and we'll get a decent fee from you sometime in the future. That's the way I would see things, to be honest.
And it'll be interesting to see the structure of the deal as well, because Eddie's talked about the need to be creative with FFP. And we know that we've spent around probably about 130 million or so. Obviously, it doesn't all come out in one go. There's installments and everything. But there's talk that this could potentially be a loan with an obligation to buy. So maybe we'll get him on loan for the season with some kind of clause that if he plays 15, 20 games, then we go and pay the rest of the money. That would seem to be a way, wouldn't it, Craig, around what we know about financial fair play and the restrictions that we're working under at the moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, if we can get him on loan with the obligation, then that makes perfect business sense. I think it was Peter Silverstone, he come out and said, regardless of what happens to the club this season, next season we're going to be in a much better state financially. So that would absolutely make perfect sense. And I think it'll also help with the wages as well, because maybe we're not going to cover 100% of his wages, depending on what kind of salaries on the Chelsea at the minute.
And what do you think about the idea of spending 30 million or 35 million on an 18-year-old who has only played 12 senior games? He has got one cap for the England under-21s as well, but it's a lot of money. Like the market has been distorted, I think, a bit by what's been going on with Saudi, but also he's got the English tax as well. But there's risks, isn't there, associated with spending this much money on a player who's so young and so inexperienced?
Absolutely. Yeah, you never know when a player of that age is going to peak. Are they going to peak too early? Are they going to peak too late? Are they going to peak at the right time? Who knows? But if he does come good, and we've got potentially a player that we could have at the club for 12, 14 years, whatever it would be, and then that money is the best bit of business the club could ever do. Same with Tino on the other side as well. Similar price, apparently, around about the 30 million mark, and not too dissimilar age as well. But you go talk about extravagant transfer fees. I mean, you look at how much Chelsea have just paid for Caicedo, and he hasn't had that many more appearances in the Premier League than what Lewis Hall has. So, in terms of value, yes, you got the English tax, but it's nowhere near the extravagant money that's been thrown around by some other clubs this season.
I think that Caicedo deal is just fucking batshit crazy, isn't it? It's like, this all happened last weekend, where we were just scrolling through Twitter, and then Liverpool had bid 100 million for him, and it's just like absolutely mind blowing that this is actually happening. And then you've got 30 million on a young left back with hardly any games, and it's absolutely crazy. I suppose for us, it's nice that we're involved now in these kind of deals, and that we can afford to go out and do this, because Michael Owen was our record signing for a long time until we signed Miggy.
That's dickhead.
So just to be in the conversation for these kind of deals now, I think is very, very good for us. I was on the Chelsea forums as well today, and they are absolutely raging about this. They're furious about it. Yeah, they think that this is a disgrace. They're saying, can we not give them Cucurella instead? But yeah, when you see young players coming through your academy, he's obviously made a big impression in those 12 games he did make. There's the clips going around on social media, but you can sort of clip anything on social media to make it look good. But yeah, he did play 12 games. He played some in central midfield as well, actually. So he's predominantly a left back, but he can play in the center of midfield as well. And he
likes his versatility.
Exactly. And the way the modern game is now with the inverted fullbacks, your fullbacks have to be able to play in central midfield now, thanks to Pep Guardiola. Cheers, Pep.
Thanks,
yeah, but the Chelsea fans are very upset about this. So I think we'll talk about the strategy of the club, and what deals like this mean. But it looks like he could actually impact our first team straight away as well. And like you said, when you've got Dan Burn, who's been playing there pretty much every game. Like I said, Matt Targett hasn't really done anything wrong, but to be able to future-proof the fullback positions like this, if we can pull this off, I think that'd be extremely impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you consider, again, he's still a teenager, I believe, Tino?
Tino's 20. He's 20, so he's about a year older, yeah.
Right. Botman's only 23. So if we can get in, not necessarily this window or even the next one, if we can get a young or mid-20s centre back, that back four could be set for however many numbers of years, and it could be mint for us.
Yeah, we're going to go through the squad in a little bit and see where the sort of what the situation is. But these are just some of the radars which Edit Kev put on Twitter about Lewis Hall. Obviously, it's a small sample size because he's only played the 12 games. But you can see there he's in the red, Kieran Trippier's in the blue. Lewis has got pretty good stats all over the pitch there. His defensive and his attacking sort of match up with Trippier. Like I said, it is over a smaller sample size, but you can see, like, if the club is using sort of data and analytics like this, and I don't know how much they actually do. I think clubs now do use stuff like this, but I don't know exactly what they use. But you can see why they're interested in him. You've got Dan Burns there, which you can see his attacking output is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
And Lewis Hall, he's got that creativity. He's got the XG assisted. That's a one for the XG wankers. But yeah, you can see why somebody who profiles like that at the age of 18, like, would you expect him to come in and come straight into the team, or how would you see it going if he does sign?
Well, it's not like Eddie to just throw someone into the deep end, is it? But that's exactly what he's done with Tonali. I know we got Tonali in really early in the window, so he's had time to embed him in the squad and everything like that. Lewis Hall's not going to need any introduction to the Premier League. He obviously knows what it's all about. So I don't know. It's a strange one because, like I say, it's not normally an Eddie tactic. He might just want to baby him in the squad, being a youngster himself, give him maybe the odd cameo at the end of a game where we're comfortable, or even just, put him on 30 minutes to go, see what you can do, get the odd crossing, maybe get assist and stamp your name on the team sheet for the following week. We will see. But either way, it's exciting times.
And I think something we'll have to think about is that the way that we play at the moment is with Trippier's not really a right back. He's more like a right winger. He's always bombing forward. And if you look at his average position, he's further ahead. He's just as far ahead as the left winger most of the time, So, but he's so special and unique at what he does. Kind of Burns' role has been to drop back as part of that back three. And I remember the first time that I noticed this, or that I noticed people talking about it, was the Brentford game last season when they had two strikers. They had Tony and Bremo, I think it was. And it was noticeable that Burn was dropping in. So we effectively do play with a back three when Dan Burn plays at left back. So you'd think that if we've got Lewis Hall on that side, then it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It's going to be more of a sort of situation where both fullbacks are going forward. So then that could alter the structure of the team and the system a bit. But like Eddie said a couple of times, he wants two teams, two 11s to be able to choose from. And when you've got a coach who's as good as Eddie Howe, who's so, he looks at everything so deeply. Maybe it's games like where we've struggled to break down opponents, like the Leeds game or Palace at home or Bournemouth at home last season, where you might want to have that extra option of both fullbacks bombing forward, and you don't quite need to worry so much about having the three centre backs.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Flick the switch, get some extra players on, different level of creativity, and see what you can do. Because last season we were fairly one-dimensional in that aspect. Now we could add a second and third dimension to our attacking team, which is what we want, and it's what we're going to need when we're fighting effectively in 4 competitions this season.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And to see young players come in, like I said this when Livramento signed, I think there was a few questions at that time, a couple of weeks ago, that why we're signing a right back when that's not a priority position. And I can understand that, when finances are limited. But what we're doing here is just future-proofing the fullback positions potentially for the next 10 years, which is, to see Newcastle do this, they just don't do that, Like for the club to have such foresight as that and to be looking ahead. And these are both English players as well. Tino and Lewis Hall are both English. So, if everything goes according to plan, we could have England's fullbacks for the next decade, which is
bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Who was the last Newcastle defender to actually play for England? I think it was Stevie Taylor. He got a call up, but he never made an appearance.
He trained with them. I remember that. He had quite a few under 21 caps. It was probably Warren Barton. I'm thinking back.
Jesus, if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know in the comments below, because that's a proper pub question, that one.
Yeah, it probably was. It probably was old centre Parton. And I think he only had 4 caps or something. He didn't have that many caps for England, but yeah. So, but I'm just going to flash up the squad then, the current squad, if Lewis Hall does sign. So the reason I want to have a look at this is just to highlight the amount of young players we've got. So I've put in bold the new signings, and this is like a potential squad. We're, assuming we might sign a centre back as well, which I don't know for certain we're going to do. And I've got the under 21 players who aren't included in the 25-man squad. I've put them in italics. So in defence, you've got Livramento, who's only 20, and Lewis Hall, if he signs, he's only 18. You've got Alex Murphy, who did pretty well in the preseason. I don't know, he's the Irish lad. I don't know if they're going to think about sending him out on loan, because it's probably going to be hard for him to get games. But he's certainly been part of the first team picture, so he's only 19. And then the midfielders we've talked about quite a few times. Anderson and Miley have saved us money this transfer window.
Definitely.
They don't have to be included in the 25-man squad either. So some of those players, like, it's going to be a couple of years before they have to be included in the 25-man squad. Livermento's only got this season, but Lewis Hall and Alex Murphy would have 3 more seasons, including this season, before they're included in the 25-man. Anderson's got this season, and Lewis Miley would have 4 more seasons before he has to be included. For a club, though, that, you know, let's be honest, a couple of years ago, we didn't have any good young players coming through. The academy's been shit for years. And it's not just these ones, but it's, you know, the club are actively making signings as well of players who are going to go into development squad. There was the other Irish defender signed this week, and there's the Irish winger who's been playing with Inter Milan. He's going to be signing as well. I think for me, this is the most exciting thing about this whole takeover and everything that's come after it. It's just the future planning, and the fact that we are signing players with a view to what's going to happen in the years to come, not just for the now. It's such an amazing, positive thing to see, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, the next 5 to 6 years, even less than that, are going to be crazy, crazy exciting for us. Players the likes of Miley and everybody are just coming through that squad, and like I say, potentially getting an England call up. Who knows? The potential there is endless, really. And we're only going to go from strength to strength as well. Remember, we're still at the very beginning of this journey in terms of the takeover. In 10 years from now, we could be looking back at this podcast and saying, I remember when we signed Tino Livramento, and what a player he is. He's gone on to be one of our record appearances for the club. He got 30 plus caps for England. The bloke's a legend now at the club. Who knows? That type of thing could happen. These players will want to go down in history for the club as the players that took them to that next step. And it's definitely a possibility because they've all got quality. Every single one of them has. And they've got the best coach in the league to develop them on at that age as well.
That's the thing. I've seen that somebody saying that Lewis Hall is interested in signing for Newcastle because of Eddie Howe. And I know that Livramento referenced that when he signed as well. But it's not just the under 21s. You've got 23 years old Sven Botman, he's 23. Tonali's 23. Isak's 23 as well. Gordon's 22. This, all of a sudden, it's not all of a sudden, it's over 2 years, but the squad is just stacked full of quality young players within the space of a couple of years. And the spine of the team, you know, Bruno's only 25, Joe Linton's 27. The future is so bright, I think. And looking at it like this with the players like this, Barnes is only 25, you know, it's such a positive time. So we've got excited tonight about a left back, signing a left back, but I think it's more for me. It's more for what it actually represents for what the club's doing and the long-term planning. And this is what Dan Ashworth does, though. This is what he does. This is why he was brought in for this exact reason, because he put this in place when he was at Brighton. And you just have to look at what they've done with their transfers, you know, over the recent years to see that what he has put in place has actually worked. I don't know about you, but I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly. I didn't expect to see obviously no one expected the success on the pitch, but to the sort of turbocharged what's been going on off the pitch as well, and getting these players in. That doesn't even include Garan Kowal as well, of course, and Yakubu Minte as well, who's out of Feyenoord on loan. So yeah, I think I need to go and have a lie down, Craig. I'm too excited.
The future is bright. The future is black and white.
100%. All right, we'll leave it there. Little short one. Thanks very much, Craig.
No worries.
And yeah, I'll catch up with you on the next one. We'll be back, I'm sure, if and when hopefully this signing is confirmed. And we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Take it easy.